The stars looked wrong from where Commander Veltar stood on the bridge of his flagship. They had been wrong for 2 years, 3 months, and 16 days. He knew the exact count because each day brought his people closer to death. 300. Ships floated in the darkness of the void nebula like insects trapped in amber. The massive vessels of the Zephyrian Alliance stretched as far as the eye could see through the viewing ports. Each ship carried thousands of beings from 12 different worlds. Scientists, explorers, families, children. All of them counting on him to find a way home. "Still nothing, Commander," reported his science officer. The tall, crystal-like being called himself Bright Song of Knowledge, though Veltar just called him Bright for short. The quantum drives remain completely dead. The nebula blocks everything. Veltar's forearms hung loose at his sides. His blue skin had grown pale over the months of stress. What about the new plan from the Lumina scientists? Failed like all. The others. They tried to create a quantum tunnel using pure energy. The nebula absorbed it all and gave nothing back. Behind them, other officers worked at their stations. The bridge buzzed with quiet activity, but Veltar could feel the fear. Underneath, everyone knew their situation grew worse each day. The void nebula was unlike anything they had seen before. It looked beautiful from the outside, with swirling clouds of purple and gold gas that sparkled like jewels. But inside, it was a trap. The strange matter that made up the nebula seemed to eat their technology. Jump drives would not work. Quantum. Computers crashed. Even their advanced communication systems barely functioned. "Sir, I have the daily reports," said another officer. This one looked like a walking tree, with bark-like skin and leaves that changed color with his mood. Right now, those leaves were deep red with worry. "Go ahead, Forest Walker. Food production is down another 3%. The hydroponic systems are failing faster than we can fix them. Water recycling is at 60% efficiency and dropping. Fusion reactors on ships 7 through 12 are showing critical wear." Veltar closed his eyes. The numbers told a story he did not want to hear. At this rate, they had maybe 6 months before the first ships went dark, a year before they all died. What about the engineering teams? Any progress on manual navigation? Forest Walker's leaves darkened further. The architect engineers say, "It is impossible. Their calculations show we would need 17,000 years to leave the nebula using basic rocket thrust. We do not have enough fuel for even 1% of that journey." In the corner of the bridge, a group of aliens worked. Around a large table covered with star charts and technical drawings. These were the smartest beings in the Alliance. The crystal architects who had built their ships. The energy-based Lumina, who understood the deepest secrets of space and time. The machine-like Calculon, who could solve any math problem in seconds. For 2 years, they had tried everything. They built new types of engines. They created exotic matter from nothing. They even tried to punch holes in space itself. Nothing worked. The nebula seemed to have an answer for every solution they found. "Commander," called out the communications officer. She was a Zephyrian like him, but younger and still hopeful. "I am getting more complaints from the other ships. The Rigel delegation wants to know why we have not found a way out yet. The Cosmic Union representatives are saying we should try to contact their home worlds for rescue. Tell them the same thing I told them yesterday. Our best minds are working on the problem. A rescue mission would take 50 years to reach us, and we do not have 50 years." Veltar walked to the center of the bridge and looked out at his trapped fleet. Each ship represented a different member world of the Alliance. Some looked like giant crystals that caught and reflected light. Others were smooth metal spheres that seemed to flow like liquid. A few looked like living creatures, all curves and organic shapes. The fleet had been the pride of the Alliance. They were explorers, sent to map the far edges of known space and look for new worlds to join their peaceful coalition. The mission was supposed to take 10 years. They had the best ships, the smartest people, and enough supplies to last decades. Nobody had warned them about the Void Nebula. Their long-range sensors had shown it as just another gas cloud, maybe a little unusual, but nothing dangerous. They had flown straight into it without worry. The trap had closed the moment they entered. Their jump drives died instantly. Conventional. Engines worked, but barely. Their computers crashed and had to be rebuilt using simpler systems. Even their lights dimmed as the nebula drained power from everything it touched. "Sir, the medical officer wants to speak with you," Forrest Walker said quietly. Valtar did not want to hear the medical report, but he had to. Put her through. The image of Dr. Healing Touch appeared on the main screen. She was a tender, a species, that looked like walking flowers. Her petals, normally bright yellow, had turned brown at the edges. "Commander, I must report that malnutrition is beginning to show in the younger crew members. The reduced food production is hitting the children first. I also have 17 cases of what humans would call depression. People are losing hope." "What do you recommend, Doctor?" "More food rations would help, but I know we cannot spare them. What people really need is hope. They need to believe we will find a way out." Valtar nodded and closed the channel. Hope was the one thing he could not manufacture in his engineering bays. "Commander," Brightsong said suddenly, "I am detecting something strange on the long-range sensors." "More strange than being trapped in a space anomaly for 2 years? It appears to be a ship. Small, primitive design. It is approaching the nebula from Sector 7. Veltar felt his heart skip a beat. "Can you identify the species?" "Negative. The design does not match any known civilization in our databases. The technology appears very basic. Simple fusion. Drive, basic metals, no quantum systems at all. Are they trying to communicate? Not yet. They seem to be scanning us." Veltar looked around his bridge. His officers stared at him with something he had not seen in months. It might have been hope, or it might just have been curiosity. Either was better than despair. "Prepare a standard first contact message. All languages, all frequencies. Maybe. Whoever they are, they can carry word of our situation to someone who can help." He did not really believe it. What could a primitive species do that the greatest minds in the Alliance had failed to accomplish? But after 2 years of failure, even the smallest chance was worth taking. Outside the bridge windows, the unknown ship grew larger as it approached their trapped fleet. Captain Jake Miller was drinking his morning coffee when the universe changed forever. The bitter taste of recycled water and synthetic beans filled his mouth as he stared at the readings on his screen. Something was very wrong with what he was seeing. "Kate, are you getting this signal too?" He called across the small bridge of the New Horizon. Kate Johnson looked up from her communication station. Her red hair was tied back in a simple ponytail, and she had dark circles under her eyes from working the night shift. "If you mean the weird transmission from the purple cloud, then yes. I have been trying to decode it for 3 hours. Any luck? Some. The mathematics are universal, so I can understand the basic structure. But Jake, this is not from any human colony. This is something else entirely." Jake set down his coffee cup and walked over to her station. The New Horizon was not a big ship. 32 crew members, basic living quarters, and equipment that was reliable rather than fancy. They were explorers, sent out by Earth to map new star systems and look for planets that humans could settle on. "Show me what you have got." Kate pointed to her screen. "The signal is coming from inside that nebula. There are hundreds of sources, all transmitting the same message. I think it is a distress call." "Hundreds?" "At least 300 distinct transmitters. Jake, if these are ships, we are talking about the biggest fleet anyone has ever seen." Dr. Alex Rodriguez joined them at the communications station. The physicist was a thin man with graying hair and hands that always seemed to be moving. "I have been scanning that nebula for the past hour. The energy readings are incredible. There are massive power sources inside, but they seem to be failing." Jake looked at his two senior officers. Behind them, other crew members worked at their stations. The bridge was cramped compared to the military ships he had served on before joining the Colonial Authority, but it was home. "What does the message say?" he asked Kate. "As best I can translate, it says something like, 'Help us. We are trapped. Millions will die.' The signal is being broadcast on every frequency they can manage." "Millions? That is what it looks like. Jake, I think we are looking at an entire civilization asking for help." Jake rubbed his chin. His orders were clear. "Map the local star. Systems, avoid contact with unknown species. Report back to Earth if anything unusual happened." This definitely counted as unusual. "How far away are they?" Alex checked his readings. "About 6 hours at our current speed." "But Jake, there is something strange about that nebula. My instruments are getting weird readings from inside it." "What kind of weird?" "The physics do not make sense. It looks like conventional space-time is breaking down in there. I would expect any advanced technology to have serious problems." Jake made his decision the way he always did, quick and based on his gut feeling. Set course for the nebula. If there are millions of people in trouble, we have to try to help. "Jake, we should report this to Earth first," Kate said. "First contact protocols require us to get permission before making contact with alien species. By the time a message reaches Earth and they send back orders, everyone in that nebula could be dead. We are explorers. Sometimes that means exploring dangerous things." The New Horizon changed course and headed toward the swirling purple and gold clouds. As they got closer, the readings became even stranger. Alex spent most of the trip muttering to himself and running calculations. "I have never seen anything like this," he said as they approached the nebula's edge. "The quantum fields inside are completely disrupted. Any technology that depends on quantum effects would stop working immediately." "What about our systems?" Jake asked. "We should be fine. Human technology is pretty basic compared to what I would expect from a species that can build hundreds of starships. Our fusion reactor, our computers, our engines, they all use simple physics that should not be affected." Kate looked up from her station. "I am getting clearer signals now. Definitely. Multiple species. The language patterns are completely different from each other, but they are all working together somehow." The New Horizon crossed into the nebula, and immediately Jake felt the difference. The ship shuddered slightly, and several warning lights appeared on his console. But the engines kept running, and the life support systems continued working. "All systems showing green," reported Lisa Thompson from the engineering station. She was a young woman with oil-stained coveralls and a gift for keeping old equipment running. "A few fluctuations, but nothing serious." "That is impossible," Alex muttered. "The quantum disruption should have killed our computers at minimum." "Maybe our computers are too stupid to know they should be dead," Lisa said with a green dot as they flew deeper into the nebula. The alien fleet began to appear on their screens. Jake had seen a lot of impressive things in his years exploring space, but nothing had prepared him for this sight. The ships were enormous. The smallest ones were bigger than anything humans had ever built. They came in shapes that made no sense from an engineering perspective. Crystals that somehow flew through space. Organic curves that looked like they had grown rather than been built. Geometric patterns that hurt to look at directly. 307 ships, Kate reported. "I am counting at least 12 different design types. Jake, I think we are looking at some kind of alliance between multiple species. Are they responding to our presence?" "Yes, I am getting dozens of communication attempts. They seem as surprised to see us as we are to see them. Jake took a deep breath. Open a channel. All frequencies. You are connected. Unknown ships. This is Captain Jake Miller of the Earth vessel New Horizon. We received your distress signal and came to offer assistance. Please respond. The response came immediately, but not in any language Kate recognized. However, after a few minutes of back-and-forth communication, they managed to establish a basic translation protocol. Captain Miller, came a voice through the speakers. It sounded tired and desperate. I am Commander Veltar of the Zephyrian Alliance. We have been trapped in this nebula for over 2 years. Our ships are failing, and people are dying. Can you help us? Jake looked around his bridge. His crew of 32 humans in their small, basic ship, being asked to help an alliance of advanced alien species with hundreds of massive vessels. We will do everything we can, Commander. Can you explain what is keeping you trapped? There was a pause. Then Veltar spoke again. Our technology does not function properly in this nebula. Our jump drives are completely disabled. We cannot escape using conventional thrust because the distances are too great and we do not have enough fuel. Alex was already studying the readings from the alien ships. He looked up at Jake with an expression of disbelief. Jake, their technology is incredibly advanced, but it is all based on quantum principles. The nebula is disrupting everything they depend on, and our technology works fine because it is too primitive to be affected. Jake smiled. It was not often that being primitive was an advantage. Commander Veltar, I think we might be able to help you after all. Lisa Thompson had never expected to fix alien spaceships, but here she was, floating in zero gravity inside a massive crystal vessel, trying to figure out how their engines worked. The architect ship was beautiful, but completely impractical. Everything was made of some kind of living crystal that grew in patterns that made her head hurt. This is insane, she muttered into her helmet radio. They have quantum processors that can calculate the movement of every atom in the galaxy, but they cannot figure out how to make a simple rocket engine. What are you seeing in there? Came Jake's voice from the New Horizon. It is like they forgot how to build anything basic. Every system is connected to every other system through quantum links. When the nebula kills the quantum effects, the whole ship becomes a very expensive piece of junk. Lisa pushed herself along the crystal corridors, following the architect-engineer who was showing her around. The alien looked like a walking diamond, with light flowing through his transparent body in complex patterns. He had introduced himself as Builder of Perfect Forms, which Lisa shortened to Builder. Your species is very strange, Builder said through the translation device they had rigged. You use such simple methods. Why do you not employ quantum mechanics in your engineering? Because quantum mechanics is complicated and breaks down a lot, Lisa replied. We learned a long time ago that simple systems are more reliable than complex ones. They reached the engine room, and Lisa whistled softly. The space was enormous, filled with machinery that looked more like art than engineering. Crystalline structures twisted through the air in impossible shapes, all connected by streams of pure energy. This is your engine? Yes. It manipulates space-time directly by creating quantum tunnels through the fabric of reality. Very efficient, very clean, very fast. Very useless when the quantum effects stop working. Builder's light patterns shifted. To what Lisa guessed was embarrassment. Yes, that is the problem we face. Lisa activated her recording device and began documenting everything she saw. Back on the New Horizon, Alex was working with the alien scientists to understand the physics of their situation, while Kate coordinated communication between the human ship and the 300 alien vessels. Lisa, how is it going over there? Alex's voice crackled through the radio. I think I have an idea, but you are not going to like it. Try me. We need to turn their fancy quantum engines into big, dumb rocket motors. There was silence on the radio for several seconds. Then Alex started laughing. You want to convert the most advanced propulsion systems in the galaxy into chemical rockets? Not chemical. They have plenty of stored gases and liquids for their life support systems. We can use those as reaction mass. Basic physics. Throw stuff out the back really fast, and the ship move forward. Lisa, these ships are massive. Some of them are 20 kilometers long. You would need incredible amounts of thrust to move them. Then we use lots of engines. They have hundreds of these quantum devices on each ship. If we can modify even half of them to work as reaction engines, we might have enough thrust. Builder had been listening to the conversation through his translator. This is a very primitive approach. Are you certain it will work? I am certain it is better than staying here and dying, Lisa replied. Builder, can you show me your fuel? Storage systems? As they moved through the ship, Lisa began to see the scope of the problem. The aliens had built everything to be perfect, but perfect systems were fragile. When one part failed, everything failed. Human engineers had learned to build redundancy into their systems, to expect failures and plan for them. Jake, I need to talk to their fleet commander, Lisa said into her radio. 20 minutes later, she was on a video call with Veltar and the senior staff of the Alien Alliance. The conference room on the Zephyrian flagship was intimidating, filled with representatives from 12 different species. Some looked like walking trees, others like energy beings that barely had physical form. All of them looked desperate. Engineer Thompson, Veltar began, we understand you have a proposal for escaping the nebula. I do, but it is going to require a lot of work and some changes to your ships that you might not like. At this point, we are willing to consider anything. Lisa activated her tablet and projected a simple diagram into the air. Your quantum engines are incredibly sophisticated, but sophistication is your problem. We need to strip out all the quantum components and turn your engines into basic reaction motors. A crystalline being that Lisa recognized as one of the architects stood up. His light patterns were flashing angry red. You propose to destroy our most advanced technology and replace it with crude chemical propulsion? I propose to save your lives using crude chemical propulsion. The calculations are impossible, insisted another alien that looked like a walking computer. Our ships are too massive. Simple rockets cannot provide sufficient thrust. Alex's voice came through the communication system. Actually, I have been running the numbers. If we can convert 60% of their engines and use their stored atmosphere as reaction mass, we can generate enough thrust to break free of the nebula in about 3 weeks. 3 weeks? Veltar asked. The nebula is big, but not infinitely big. Once we get far enough from the center, your quantum drives should start working again. Lisa could see the aliens struggling with the concept. Their entire civilization was built on the idea that more advanced was always better. The thought of deliberately making their technology more primitive went against everything they believed. There is another problem, said a flower-like alien that Lisa recognized as their chief medical officer. Our life support systems are also failing. We may not have 3 weeks. That is where human maintenance techniques come in, Lisa said. We specialize in keeping old, broken equipment running past its expiration date. My team can show your engineers how to patch, repair, and jury-rig your systems to keep them working. Jury-rig? Asked Veltar. Fix something in a way that is not pretty or permanent, but works well enough to get the job done. The room fell silent as the aliens considered this. Lisa could see them struggling with the idea of accepting help from a species they considered primitive. Finally, Veltar spoke. Engineer Thompson, if we agree to this plan, How long will it take to modify our ships? That depends on how many people you can assign to work crews and how fast you can learn to think. Like human engineers. What does it mean to think like human engineers? Lisa grinned. It means accepting that good enough is perfect when perfect is impossible. It means building things that work instead of things that are elegant. It means planning for everything. To break and having a backup plan for your backup plan. Veltar looked around the room at his fellow commanders. Lisa could see the moment when they made their decision. It was not about pride anymore. It was about survival. Very well, Engineer Thompson. Show us how to think like humans. Lisa cracked her knuckles and got to work. She had 300 alien spaceships to fix and only a few weeks to do it. Good thing she had learned her trade, keeping old Earth equipment running on a shoestring budget. First lesson in human engineering, she announced to the room full of aliens. If it is stupid, but it works, then it is not stupid. The next 6 weeks became the busiest time in Jake Miller's life. The human crew of 32 had suddenly become teachers, engineers, and coordinators for millions of alien beings across 300 massive ships. Jake found himself running the largest rescue operation in galactic history from the small bridge of the New Horizon. Status report, he called out as he floated into the command center. The ship had been reconfigured to handle communications with the entire alien fleet, and every surface was covered with screens showing different ships and work crews. 67 ships have completed engine modifications, Kate reported. Her hair was messy, and she had not slept properly in days. But her voice was steady. Another 43 are halfway done. Lisa's teams are working around the clock. What about the life support crisis? Alex's maintenance crews have stabilized the fusion reactors on most ships. They are not running efficiently, but they are running. The aliens are learning fast. Jake smiled. The aliens had been skeptical at first, but they learned quickly once they saw human methods working. The key had been convincing them to stop trying to fix things perfectly and start fixing things quickly. Jake, we have a problem, came Lisa's voice over the radio. She was currently on ship number 47, a massive organic vessel that looked like a giant sea creature. The tender ship has structural damage that is getting worse. Their hull is literally growing sick. How bad is it? Bad enough that we need to evacuate everyone within 12 hours, or the whole ship might collapse. Jake felt his stomach drop. The tender ship carried over 50,000 beings, including most of the Alliance's children. Moving that many people would require dozens of other ships to make room, and most of those ships were in the middle of engine modifications. Kate, get me Commander Veltar immediately. Already connecting you. Veltar's image appeared on the main screen. The alien commander looked exhausted, but his 4 eyes were alert. Captain Miller, I understand we have a crisis. The tender ship is failing faster than we expected. We need to evacuate 50,000 people, and we need to do it fast. That is impossible. Our transport systems are not functioning, and the ships that could take refugees are all being modified. Jake looked around his bridge at his crew. They had already done the impossible several times in the past weeks. Maybe they could do it one more time. Not impossible, just difficult. Kate, how many ships have working life support but are not currently being modified? Kate's fingers flew over her console. 17 ships could take refugees, but they do not have quantum transport systems working. They do not need quantum transport. They have airlocks and corridors. We do this the old-fashioned way. Alex looked up from his engineering station. Jake, you are talking about moving 50,000 beings through space using basic EVA suits and manual transfers. That will take forever. Then we do not do it one at a time. We do it in groups, big groups. Jake opened a fleet-wide communication channel. All ships, this is Captain Miller. I need every available shuttle, escape pod, maintenance craft, and anything else that can carry people through space. We are going to save the tender ship crew, and we are going to do it fast. What happens next would be talked about in alien history books for centuries. The human approach to crisis management spread through the fleet like wildfire. Instead of careful planning and perfect coordination, they used organized chaos and good enough solutions. Lisa coordinated the technical side, teaching alien engineers how to convert cargo bays into temporary living spaces in hours instead of days. Alex managed the life support calculations, making sure that ships taking refugees could actually keep them alive. Kate handled communications, keeping track of who was going where and making sure nobody got lost in the shuffle. Jake found himself in command of the most diverse fleet in galactic history. Ships that had never worked together before were suddenly coordinating like they had been allies for years. The crystal beings of the architects used their precision to guide shuttles through dangerous debris fields. The energy-based Lumina provided power to ships that were running low. The tree-like forest dwellers used their patience to keep panicking families calm during transfers. Evacuation is 60% complete, Kate reported. But Jake, the tender ship is showing critical structural failure. The hull is starting to crack. How much time do we have? Maybe 3 hours before it breaks apart completely. Jake made another command decision. All ships with working engines form up around the tender ship. We are going to push it. Push it where? Veltar asked. Away from the rest of the fleet. If it is going to explode, it explodes somewhere safe. The sight of dozens of massive alien ships working together to push the failing tender vessel away from the fleet was something Jake would never forget. Beings who had spent their lives creating perfect, elegant solutions were suddenly using brute force and simple physics to solve their problems. The evacuation finished with 20 minutes to spare. As the last shuttle cleared the tender ship, the massive vessel finally gave up its fight against structural failure. It did not explode dramatically like in human movies. It simply came apart quietly, its organic hull dissolving back into the space dust it had grown from. All refugees accounted for, Kate reported. 0 casualties. Jake felt a weight lift from his shoulders. They had saved 50,000 lives in less than 12 hours using nothing but human organizational skills and alien willingness to try something new. Fleet status? He asked. All remaining ships have completed engine modifications. Lisa's teams finished the last repairs an hour ago. We are ready to begin the escape burn. Jake looked out at the fleet of modified alien ships. They did not look elegant anymore. External fuel tanks had been bolted to crystal hulls. Organic ships sprouted metal engine bells that looked like mechanical flowers. The perfect designs of a dozen species had been turned into functional, hybrid machines that would have horrified their original builders. They were beautiful. All ships. This is Captain Miller. Begin escape burn in 60 seconds. Remember, we do not need to be fast. We just need to be steady. The burn began with 300 ships firing their modified engines simultaneously. The thrust was nowhere near what their original quantum drives could produce, but it was enough. Slowly, steadily, the massive fleet began to move through the nebula toward the distant edge where their advanced technology would work again. It took exactly 3 weeks and 2 days. When the first ship finally cleared the nebula and its quantum drive came back online, the celebration could be heard across subspace. One by one, the rest of the fleet emerged from their prison and regained their full capabilities. Captain Miller, Veltar said during the final communication before the fleet separated. The Zephyrian Alliance would like to offer humanity full membership in our coalition, not as junior partners, but as senior advisors. We have learned that sometimes the best solution is the simplest one. Jake looked around his small, cramped, primitive bridge and his crew of 32 humans. They had just saved millions of lives, using nothing but common sense, hard work, and the willingness to try solutions that were not perfect. Commander Veltar, we would be honored to join your alliance. But remember what we taught you. When your perfect technology fails, sometimes all you need is a good enough solution and the determination to make it work. As the new horizon set, course for Earth to report their success, Jake realized that humanity had just announced itself to the galaxy in the best possible way. Not as conquerors or merchants, but as problem solvers. As people who could fix things when everyone else had given up, the stars looked right again.